Hey guys, I'm Phoenix Gray and welcome to LitRPG Happy Hour, where I sample alcoholic beverages and LitRPG. Feel free to drink along if you dare. Today I'll be reading a sample of Endless Online, Oblivion's Blade by M.H. Johnson, and I'll be playing a game called Healing Potions along with it, where I have to take a drink every time a character uses a healing potion or buff. If you want to follow along, pause this video and download a copy of the book sample at the link, or you can just drink whenever I do. As a disclaimer, I do not review or I do not read every book that I drink to. I don't review books at all, actually, because I feel like it's a conflict of interest. Anyway, this is all for fun and to help spread the word about LitRPG and these awesome books. Having said that, let's get started. So I need to be perfectly clear with you guys. I actually just tried to record this video before, and I am quite kind of wasted at this point. I tried to do it with shots at first. I was doing shots of brandy, and in the first, I didn't even get to the end of the first chapter, and I took 4 shots in like 5 minutes. So I'm starting this video at probably like a, I don't know, a 7/10 of the wasted meter. So, man, you guys should have seen me try to open this jar of moonshine cherries, which is what I'm actually going to be doing now. Every time there's like a healer buff, I'm going to eat one of these moonshine cherries. But this bottle is, like, shit you not, like 5 years old, so hopefully I don't die just from eating this. I wish I would have made a video of me trying to open the jar because I used every trick in the book. I beat this shit with a hammer. I was, like, using the little plastic thing to open it. I mean, I ended up, like, using my, like, nutcracker bullshit to, like, pry underneath it. It was bad. Anyway, so sorry that it's taken me so long to start this video. It is because I'm already, pretty well on my way to wasted. So, sorry, M.H. Johnson, you're actually getting, like, the I don't want to say post-game pre-version of me, but yeah, your book has already gotten me wasted once so far, so hopefully I can make it through the rest of it without getting even more wasted. Anyway, let's go ahead and start. Val, watch your 6, he's spawning behind you! Val nodded, tapping his keyboard at a mad pace, quickly refreshing his rapid buffs, his Hammer Guardian raising its shield just as the Lich spawning behind him released its Doomclaw attack. That was a buff. That earns me one of these, like, 5-year-old cherries. It's gonna sound disgusting, but it maybe could be because of age, but it tastes like seafood. Val nodded, tapping his... Oh, wait, shit. Okay, sorry. Next paragraph. The screen flashed a rainbow of colors as he took massive damage to stamina and health. Val tapping his primal potion and resisting the impulse to launch forth with a hammer strike. It was team play, not solo, and he had 2 healers buffing his stats and wards as fast as they could tap their boards. Their DPS specialist was blasting the massive boss trapped with them in depths of the crypt with fire magics for all she was worth. This is going to be one of those in case I tap out, because, like I said, I actually started this video with a lot of alcohol, because I tried to record it with a lot of alcohol before, and it didn't work. This should not, hopefully, happen in the future. I'm usually pretty good about knowing what I can drink with videos, but cheers. I'm going to throw this jar away when I'm done with this. This tastes like shit. I feel like I should just swallow that. Val frowned, even as the dark corridor splashed with crimson magics. The Lich Guardian's health bar was full. Julia wasn't making a dent. Oh shit, Val, it's powering up. I'm casting my primal now. Don't waste it. Wait for an opening, Val said, having finally gotten the measure of their foe. This, the 4th time they had made it so far into the newest expansion of Illyrium, rumored to hold utterly unique gold star artifacts only available for this, the first week before being locked out of general circulation for at least a season. And they would be sellable, allowing for an incredible in-game windfall, but only if they could get past this. What they hoped but couldn't be certain was the final boss before the inner sanctum. Eerie chanting resonated through Val's bedroom as his itchy finger waited for the perfect moment. His legs constant throb, more like a muted burn than a raging inferno of pain, so focused he was on the battle. There! As the Lich whispered the final 2 syllables of his incantation, Val charged, having powered up his greater disruption, knowing they had only one chance to break past the Lich's defenses before it completely obliterated them. Val's teeth flashed in a rictus of a grin as the creature howled, stumbling back, hearing his friend's roar of approval. Now, Julia, the fences are halved. Primal that bitch. Salvin, wait for the door. If it goes green... Got it, the quiet voice. Salvin, their secret weapon, was tied to their TS chat group, but not officially part of their four-man squad at all. He was their secret fifth, rogue class, and would be the one to go through the door, even if the lich they faced wiped them all off the grid, which it had numerous times already. According to the chat groups Val had networked in, every adventuring group had met the same fate since the expansion was released just days ago. Alright, so I get one more for that. In the first video, I have to admit, I wasn't sure if Primal was a buff or not, but it turns out that it is, so every time they cast it, I get to eat one of these babies. Cherry should not taste... Oh, I just got it everywhere. Cherry should not taste like fish, by the way, and I'm sure it's only because there should be like a date on this bottle. I don't know why there's not. The price is on it, but I'm assuming these aren't... I don't know how fermentation works. Like, I always think about old school stuff. People fermented stuff forever. So I would think that this would last forever even if you opened it, but it doesn't taste like it should last forever. Definitely does not taste like it should last forever. It's so gross. Alright. Let's see. Hence the need to think outside the box. Recruiting a solo rogue just to get past that door, scout ahead and report back, and if they were truly at the final boss, grab all the spoils he couldn't pour out. It was a risk. Salvin wasn't part of their group, so as far as the game was concerned, any spoils he found would be his. If he wanted to, he could pocket it all, and there wouldn't be a thing Val or his group could do. Ultimately, it all came down to trust. Val knew of a couple games that seemed to foster ruthless exploitation, celebrating a free-for-all and all but void of corruption, but Val knew enough of game theory to know how powerful true alliances could be against a sea of opponents too mistrustful to work together. It was, Val thought, worth the risk, because without Salvin, Val feared they wouldn't make it into the chamber at all. Not that they wouldn't do their damnedest, of course. Yes, finally got that bastard in the yellow. Truly a perhaps a youngest player chirped cheerfully. Val grinned. Nice one, he said, as the lich twisted back in a very good imitation of agonized fury before lurching forward abruptly. Val hissed, heart suddenly hammering. He had never seen any boss more like that, circling Val and gazing at the Hammer Guardian as if he would cut out Val's heart the second he had a chance. Val forced his racing heart to ease, glaring at the computer, wondering how the hell those programmers had managed to get an NPC moving like an enemy combatant actually closing in for the kill. John, Finn, Primal buff and heal. 3, 2, 1, now! Alright. Another fish cherry for me. I don't understand why it tastes like that. I'm probably gonna need more orange juice. Not even a grunt. His friends buffing and healing, magics pouring in perfect harmony, actually managing to buff each other's spells as they poured upon Val's tank, spell symmetry skills activating for added buffs, and just as the lull in the casting, giving them a much-needed boost in warding their foe. Bloody fuck! Finn's voice suddenly panicked as Val's hit points melted faster than butter in a skillet. There's no way! Damn it! Val mashed his backup primal power, a racial trait he had specifically channeled to complement his tank, earning himself a greater ram that interrupted the lich's spell just barely in time. So that is another buff. Like I said, this is something I agonized over the first time that I actually recorded this. And I never got past chapter 1 because I drank so much, but... Fish cherry, so gross. I'm sorry, old smoky moonshine. Your cherries might not actually taste like fish cherries, but when they're 5 years old and you've opened the bottle already, they do. I'm just gonna swallow that. It's like a really gross pill. It's like a really gross pill. Alright. Let me find where I was. Let's see. Okay, fuck. I'm putting my artifact in play, John whispered, and suddenly Val was at full hit points once more, the lich screeching something that almost sounded like dark chanting through Val's speakers, before lurching back its own attack disrupted. Val quickly readied his guard once more, relieved beyond words to see his hit points at full, though his gut twisted at his friend's words. To put an artifact in play temporarily doubled its effectiveness, but it was a desperate move because it one wiped while using it. The artifact was gone for good. The artifact also counts as a buff, so... Fuck John. It was all Val could say as John gave a nervous slap. Worthy sacrifices if this works. Glory to our guild. But Val knew his focus dare not waver, or his friend's gesture was meaningless. Now, Julia! A soft, feminine grunt through his headset, even as Julia unleashed her discipline primal. John and Finn both hooted in approval. Releasing two primals was not an easy skill to master, requiring a specific quest chain, adapt manual dexterity, and elite rank. Add to that logging off within 20 minutes of casting, it put a 2-hour ban on using that character. I'm not sure that actually counts as a buff, so I'm going to go ahead and pass it. Val grimaced. It looked like they were all playing for keeps today. Hell with it, he said, calling out a Thunderstrike, his second linked primal, launching forth with his axe and temporarily converting himself to pure DPS in the 2-second window he had. Since I'm not sure that either one of those are buff, I'm going to go ahead and eat another cherry. This is why I switched from drinking brandy, because holy crap. There's a lot of buffing in this, which is good for game mechanics, but it's bad for me right now. This is a game of not chew, just swallow. Val grimaced. It looks like they were all playing for keeps today. Hell with it, he said, calling a Thunderstrike, his second linked primal, launching forth with his axe and temporarily converting himself to pure DPS in the 2-second window he had. The maneuver was risky as hell. If the Lich popped him, he was toast, but Val had sacrificed his first class to allow for the daily combination maneuver and his ability to time his attacks, strike between the beats, when and where his foes were least prepared, was no less profound in game than it was in real life. Okay, this is why I'm a little confused about Primal. And I am so sorry, M.H. Johnson, that I keep, disrupting your book because of all this stuff, but yeah. Anyway. Woohoo! Nice one, Samurai! Julia cheered as their hideous nemesis was sent stumbling back, his silver health bar flashing yellow, then red as it burst into flames and crackling black lightning simultaneously. Nice one, John cheered. Voice suddenly relieved, and Val could sense how much his impulsive sacrifice was weighing on his friend. His friends could cheer. Val was focused only on twisting and dodging the Lich's lightning counterattack, crackling energies flying down the corridor, missing him completely as old build acrobats allowed him to dodge, but tearing through both healers and Julia. What the hell? Finn cursed as Val, heart and throat, flipped back to Guardian mode just in time to meet the Lich's onslaught, health already melting like butter. It should be able to counter after it shouldn't be able to counter after 2 primals. So, primals must be an attack. So, primals seem to be like a buff, but they also seem to be an attack. Alright. Oh shit, John cried, panicked again as he desperately tried to cast his greater healing spell, even as Julie frantically warded up, most of her health gone with that simple boss counterspell. I am so sorry, I'm pretty buzzed right now. Tag team up, Val cried, knowing they were in serious trouble. All their big guns fired, and their foe was still at half health and had only just begun. 3, 2, 1, now, Julia! He shield slammed his foe, praying for any kind of stagger, knowing their only chance was a synergized DPS bonus. The Lich didn't jostle an inch. Thank goodness that Julia at least got the DPS multitude. Multiple! The Lich's health had slid further at 40%. You buffed Val, John whispered, and Val had never seen his ward so strong. Happy to see that John was still benefiting from putting his artifact in play. The screen flashed in a rainbow of black lightning, Val reflexively popping 2 extensive customized potions, even as he shield bashed in the split second between boss spell pulses. He cursed a brilliant pyrotechnics flashing across the screen that made it so damn hard to judge even that pause and scratch the smallest bonuses, no doubt as the programmer had intended. Oh fuck, we lost Julia, Finn, their other healer, said. It was like the gong of doom. Finn's voice echoed long after he was silent. John not saying a word. Julia? Val kept his voice calm, even as he mashed his keyboards madly under heavy enemy fire. As he thought of it, slipping into old roles he knew all too well. I'm sorry, Val. Don't be. You gave it your all. Thank you. Val flinched, almost certain Julie was holding back tears. I fucked up. I should have waited the way you showed me, not released until he paused. I lowered my arcane block to cast, and I insta-fried. Shut up, Julia. No time, John cried, panicked voice making it clear he knew exactly what was at stake. He and Finn doing all they could to keep Val alive as he dodged, weaving between attacks, strove to stagger and bash the boss lich and make its life as much a misery as possible. Endless seconds of flashing lights, and Finn whistled. Damn, Val, you're on fire tonight! And he was. Val grimaced, hands twitching as fast as thought as he dodged and spun about on the screen, truly slipping into the zone, feeling almost as if he was dancing with our foe. Its every move already accounted for as Val dodged, spun and countered, desperate to bring their foe down. But it was no use. It did not matter that Val was on fire. Their damage dealer was dead. They could barely scratch their foe. Worse, its health meter began to crawl back up. Fuck, 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 fuck! John cursed. God damn it, I'm calling it, Finn said, his despair carrying through loud and clear. Keep icy, Finn, Val said, voice cold and calm under terrible pressure. Salvin, are you ready? I am. 2 words again to give them hope, meaning, a point to sore fingers and hours of frustration. And like a miracle, the guarded gate behind the lich that Val had been slowly drawing close to him, leading halfway down the corridor as they had planned, finally went green. Now! I know! And Salvin was through. The lich went to a frenzy then, yet another thing that never made it to the boards, probably because no one had used split groups to pass the main boss before. And for all Val's desperate weaving and button grinding, he was wiped from the game in a flash of white before digital blood and a skull crossbones flowed across the screen. You have died. With great risk comes great triumph and peril. For dying while using elite-ranked abilities, your account is locked for 2 hours. Bloody hell, Val grimaced, rubbing his temple, the awful burning pain that comprised so much of his life suddenly tearing through him harder than the lich's spell. John? Finn? I lost my place, okay. Bloody fuck, man. I lost my artifact. I lost my goddamned artifact. Do you know how many hours I put into farming that robe of splendor? My whole build is fucked. Thanks a lot, Val. Thanks a whole hell of a bloody lot. Val frowned, taking a deep breath, but John had already cut his connection. Finn? Julia, are you still there? Yeah, man, don't sweat, John. We just got caught up in the moment, Finn said. Gambling this artifact on a power double was pretty stupid, but damn if I wouldn't have done the same thing. Julia might still be with us, and we would have made game history. Val smiled at that. Sometimes idiocy or brilliance had less to do with the actions itself than it did the results that followed, and how history chose to remember it. He looked down at his legs, eyes suddenly watering, realizing it had been over 6 hours since he had taken anything for pain. Val, you won't sweat it. You were on fire there, man. Honestly, had this been any other boss, we'd be rolling in the gold right now. It was a good fight, Val smiled to hear Julia's voice. Still trembling, but at least she was with him. Thanks for sticking around, Julia. It was good. And hey, we all learned something. Yeah, I learned that the delve is rigged, and never to PvP against you, Julia quipped. I haven't even seen GameTube videos of players that vast, and we still wiped. Val shrugged. All hope is not lost. Salvin, we could use some good news if you have any for us. Pregnant pause. Val frowned, glaring at his legs, ignoring his racing pulse, a quick glance showing that Salvin was still logged in their chat group. He felt a sudden weight lift from his chest. Had Salvin logged out already? Their worst fears would have been realized. What happened was almost worse. I'm in, he said to their breathless pause. And finally, you were right, Val. That was the final boss. And the Horde? Let's just say, Jack's ransom. Sweet, Finn hooted. Sorry I doubted you for even a second. Julia cheered as well, but Val frowned. Jack's ransom? Flash of recollection then. Val racing off on hyper-fast fighters in a desperate bid to take out a massive dreadnought-class battleship in a game that had never made it past beta. Back when he was fresh, innocent, and actually looked at the future with something besides weary bitterness and grim resolve. a time when he had been unabashedly happy. One thing about that game was, just as alliances were valued, held all the more precious for their rarity, nothing was admired quite so much as the brilliant heist. Solar Crowns, the game had been called, so brilliant in scope and content that had the owners not been indicted for money laundering, it might just be the biggest game out there today. Val had enjoyed making epic scores of his own on more than one occasion while playing. In fact, if he were to be completely honest, he had enjoyed being a backstabbing ass. Until he himself was forged in the crucible of battle and learned what loyalty and teamwork really meant. What color's the hilt? Val asked, forcing himself to grin and bear it, thinking back upon how conveniently Salvin had been floating about, joining their guild just 2 weeks back, a highly skilled rogue, perhaps the most difficult class to train up, and some would argue the least rewarding, save for their assistance in high-level runs, so always valued when they hit elite ranks. So of course when he was running green-level dungeons with never a complaint against him, it caught Val's eye. When Val made it clear he was looking for a thief for an unorthodox play, Salvin was just where he needed to be. Salvin chuckled softly. So you get it, do you? Then you know how this goes. My hilt is as black as the blade I've just stuck in your back. Thanks for the haul, Val. For someone who played Solar Crowns once upon a time, you should have seen this coming from miles away. What the hell just happened? Finn cursed. Salvin, you better not double-cross us. We bled for that loot. God damn it all to hell. What just happened? But Salvin had already logged off. Val had no words, just clenching his fists tightly, shaking his head, doing his best to see it all as a game. Just a game as his legs burned like fire, stealing a glance at his second computer using Tails and Tor and a Ghost Network account, stealing bandwidth they'd never missed from a prestigious group home just a block away with a burn cord. He flashed a bleak smile at Salvin, aka Ramos Aldiran's California address popped up, his ping having been traced 5 minutes into the game. Salvin had been right. Val should have seen this coming, and he had taken a risk, hoping for the best, using the skills he wouldn't let get rusty, no matter how much pain he was in. Val, I don't understand. What does this mean? Julia's soft, plaintive voice. Val sighed. It means, Julia, that Salvin double-crossed us. Oh, shit, no. That's so messed up. We worked hard for that, to get that far, and Salvin didn't do anything. Why would he do that? Why would he pretend to be our friend just to stab us in the back? Doesn't he feel the least shred of shame? Val shrugged. Probably not. Yeah, I bet he's laughing his ass off right now, Finn snarled. What I'd like to do to that bastard. Finn. Break every bone in his goddamn body. Finn! What? Let it go. A brooding pause. Damn it, Val, why did you have to trust that shithead? Val shrugged. The Noah could see it. It was the only way, Finn. I took a calculated risk. Of course it was possible he was bait. It's equally possible that he could have been a straight-up kid who, if he played his cards right, would have earned the right to profit and adventure beside the best damn crew I've ever played with. He decided digital currency is worth more than real-life honor, and will never play with him again. A thoughtful pause. I still feel like crap, Julie said. If we hadn't gotten in, it might have been a pickup race, but we would have gotten most of the pot. Val smiled. Don't worry about it, Julia. No guarantee we weren't going to pop within seconds anyway. That lich was throwing off so much area effect DPS just from bounce back off its primal attacks against me, it would probably have fried you, no matter what we did to counter. What a fucked up game, Finn cursed. Val smiled and shrugged. That it is, as much as I love it. On that note, I'm going to call it. Same time tomorrow? Sorry, Val, extra school for me. Val blinked. You're in trouble with classes, Julia? I thought you were a straight A. A rueful tinkle filled his headset. Hardly, Val. Don't you remember? Mother is determined to get me into medical school, and so she signed me up for evening bio courses at the local community colleges. At the local community college, as if my regular course load wasn't enough. Val winced. Julia told him that just the other day, when she had grinded with him, both of them determined to master their primal attack weaves. Honestly, he had enjoyed their conversation far more than the grinding. Actually, that's pretty smart. Medical school or no. You're that much closer to a degree. Pretty much, and that way I can see if I actually like anything they teach, or if the home front's going to become a battleground. Val smiled. Hopefully not. I've got some real-life prep work to do myself, Val, Finn said. I'll email you when I next have some free time. Sounds good, Finn, Val said as his friend logged off. Val? Julia, still logged on, her voice strangely tentative. Yes, Julia, what's up? Did you ever serve? Val blinked at that, the silence suddenly stretching. What makes you ask? He finally said. Well, it's just your tone of voice sometimes. Like you've given orders. And the way you get so calm and focused when things are really going crazy. Kinda reminds me of my dad. Val chuckled softly. I guess I do get kind of intense sometimes. Sorry if that throws you off. No, actually it's kinda neat. You remind me of him, actually. Are you active military? Val forced a smile in his voice, knowing it was time to change tracks. Actually, just a few years back, I was in high school myself. Maybe I've been playing too many military games. If I took my father's advice, I'd get out of my room and get out more. Make something of myself. Does he really say that? You don't come off as a layabout to me. If I were to bet, I'd guess you're either in college, the military, or, I don't know, climbing up the corporate ladder. Val grinned. Nope, sorry to disappoint you, Julia, but right now I'm just a guy who lives at home and spends too much time online. Oh, a thoughtful pause. Have you ever thought of going to college? I can tell you're smart. I bet you'll do really well. Val closed his eyes, allowing the screams and terror to flow through him, taking deep breaths, imagining the horrid pain fading to a brilliant white light, the sun glimmering in the clouds. And there he was, soaring the majestic heavens, finally at peace, just embracing the moment. I'd be going into my senior year if I were if I were at a college, he finally said. Oh, really? Julia said brightly. That's not too old then. I'm going to college next year myself. You're still young, Val. You should really go. Val laughed. Maybe I should, Julia. You take care of yourself, okay? And good luck with the college courses. Thanks, Val. I get the feeling I'll need all the luck I can get. She paused then, and Val's brows furrowed as his eyes glanced at the clock, knowing his father would be coming soon. Val? Yes, Julia, what's up? Have you ever heard of the game Endless? Val blinked and frowned, hands tightly gripping the arms of his specifically designed chair. Endless? I don't think I have. That's because it's still in beta testing. But from what I hear, it's totally next gen. Really? I know, that's what I said, but then I saw images of some of the graphics and, my god, Val, you've heard about the VFX singularity, right? Val nodded. The point at which digital games can't be distinguished from reality, which begs the question, what is reality? And if we ever achieve it, are we really just tapping into the fundamental nature of everything? Pretty much, Julia enthused. Anyway, the still shots looked convincing enough, but when my friend and I got access to the locked site and checked out the live stream, all I can say is, wow. Those guys at ESI are not kidding. I hate to say it, but as much as I love playing Illyrium with you, the game blows that out of the water. Val chuckled. And that's how it will always be. No matter how much you love a game, there will always be something new coming along that carries you away like your old game could only during those first beautiful weeks of play. Not like this, Julia declared. Honestly, Val, this game Endless? I don't think it gets any better. I don't think it can. Julia paused, as if collecting herself. I'm sorry. I'm going on a rant about a competing game. It's not even on the market. God, it might be years away. But seriously, Val, watching these characters act and move, it felt like I wasn't just watching a movie, but was taking a part in a real-life event. Really was incredible. Val whistled. Alright, color me intrigued. If this game is even half that good, it sounds like something we could lose ourselves in for years if we wanted. Right? Julia laughed. Not that I'll even want to touch that game if I actually get accepted to my mother's dream college and walk the path of becoming a doctor. But evening classes aside, this might just be my last summer to just go crazy and game my heart out before I have to be serious, Julia, for the rest of my life. Val laughed. You just might find being serious and goal-driven leaves you more fulfilled than the games we love ever could. All jokes aside, I think your mother has some great plans for you, assuming medicine turns out to be your passion as well. I hope so, she enthused. Honestly, I'd love it if I could make it. I hope I have the same passion for medicine as my mother, but I'm totally filling out the application to intern at Endless. If I could spend this summer beta testing for the future game of the century, I'll take it in a heartbeat. If I can actually get paid, all the better. You do that, Val enthused, chatting for some moments longer before saying goodnight and beginning the arduous process of getting ready for bed, knowing he would need to take his medicine if he wanted to get any sleep at all, and hating the fact that he needed it so much. Yet once he was lying down, with only fire and darkness to keep him company, he knew he would be grateful for the pills he had taken. Sleep couldn't come fast enough. But before he did that, he pivoted to his second computer with a painful grimace as he jostled his legs, quickly jotting down notes in a spiral notebook which, for all its flaws, was invaluable in its inability to be hacked or compromised ever, then wiped the screen clean. He looked at his notes and shook his head. He would do nothing, of course. Salvin, aka Ramos Alderon was a 22-year-old California student who had never finished college and was currently stuck in return somewhere. He wasn't an enemy combatant. He didn't need to die. Val Grimston shook away the thought. A quick eyeball of his large, semi-hemispheric computer table with its customized keyboards, monitors, and mic showing nothing untoward. His notebook full of jottings hiding so much in disorganized, scribbled plain sight. With a satisfied nod, he eased himself into bed at last, dropping into deepest slumber that quickly transformed into the most visceral of dreams. Blinking his eyes open to find himself awake and alert, strolling the Greenwood Mall just a mile away, following behind a pair of animated voices, chatting about clothes, music, boys, and the colleges of their dreams. Val blinked, focusing in on the pair after recognizing Julia's voice, stunned to see her gazing back at him with a smile. "Don't worry, Val. I'll still pass finals with flying colors." And Val had smiled back, walking free and easy without pain, happy to help carry the girls' bags as the three of them started gossiping about their teachers and dreams for the future. And in that moment, Val was not a scarred former soldier, but rather an enthusiastic high school student with his entire life before him and a beautiful friend to share it with. Julia waved them forward, picking up her pace. "Come on, Val. I want to show you the coolest store. I know you'll love it. Their games are cutting edge." Val shrugged and smiled, and the three of them picked up their pace, stopping only for gourmet ice cream, which Val and Julia both loved, their friend passing as she was lactose intolerant. Val's eyes catching one of the 3D posters outside the mall theater they passed. Val grinned at the strange-looking picture, showing a man stepping between worlds, a crackling sword of light and darkness in hand, leaving the mundane realm for some place full of magic and wonder. It looked so much like the classic science fantasy films Val loved. Then he saw the face of the lead actor, now gazing back at him. "Be careful, Val." He swallowed, stopping cold, eyes locked upon pools of blackness. The face was his own. He shook his head, forcing himself to look at the poster once more. No strange movements. It was no more lifelike than any other movie display, but the words still rung through his head. "Val, here it is. The shop I was telling you about." Val frowned, shaking away old reverie, weaving past anxious shoppers as he raced to Julia's side, a cold tingle of dread suddenly racing down his spine. He gazed at an animated Julia, even as her friend gave a tired sigh. "You know I'm not a gamer, Julia," the other girl said, her friend trying to coax her to go inside, to check out the displays. Shrugging, they entered together, auburn curls and twinkling green eyes, bidding Val to follow. "Come on, Val, you'll want to." And her words were abruptly cut off as she entered a wall of bubbling blackness that had been a store just moments ago. A wall of roiling darkness that stretched across the face of the store, the walkway beside it, now stretching as far as the eye could see. Strangely, almost everyone seemed oblivious to it, for all that it seemed to swallow up anyone's pass through it, spitting out no one in turn. Val shuddered, stumbling away from the hideous wall of inky darkness. Then it began, ever so slowly, to creep forward. "I told you, Val," whispered the strange papery voice in the movie poster, now right behind him. "I told you to be careful. Now I'm going to have to kill you." The figure from the movie poster tore itself free, slipping to the ground before sinking its teeth into a suddenly shrieking Val's neck. Val awoke, throat raw with the screams, the nightmare washing through him so fast that only terror remained. Nameless, awful dread, with only the septic scent of a battlefield surgery ward lingering upon his nose. He slammed aside all the pill bottles waiting for him that morning. This, more than anything else, was why he hated taking the drugs. They always tormented him with the most awful dreams. Scene break. The next morning, Val spent, as he did near every morning since coming back home, losing himself in the wonders of Illyrium, enjoying the simple experience of exploring an ever-expanding world, turning quest for fame and glory, even helping out the occasional noob trapped in one of the easier dungeons that were perfect for newer players learning group mechanics, but that only an idiot would try to solo, unless they were like Val, of course, and could actually pull it off. He was quite happy to spend the entire day in Illyrium if he could get away with it, because every hour he didn't need to take his medication, every hour he was not enslaved to his own pain was an hour hard won to his mind. His father's knock suddenly reverberated through his room. "Just a sec," Val said, before forcing himself to his feet with a grimace, opening the door to his bedroom, gazing up into concerned hazel eyes of his father. With strong chiseled features and a thick shock of dark hair, belonging to a man decades younger, his powerful physique was that of an athlete who had entered more than one triathlon, and trained for them still, reminiscent of the person Val saw every day in his mirror. An older, undamaged version of himself. How are you feeling, Val? Like my legs are on fire, Dad. His father nodded. I know you haven't been taking your pain medication unless you're dying for sleep. I'm concerned. I'm worthless on those meds. I can barely think. I'm just floating in clouds all day. I won't get anywhere in life, high as a kite all the time. His father sighed. You've done enough. At ease, son. Val squeezed his eyes shut, rubbing his temples. Sorry, Dad. The thought of not being sharp, not being in the moment, being just another drugged out, washed up, that cuts almost as deeply as the pain. He chuckled slightly. If I didn't know the medicine was just a couple feet away, I'd be screaming. I know it. But it's like an endurance race. I can stop at any time. So why not push for another few minutes, another hour? And if playing Illyrium lets me do that, I'm happy to lose myself in running dungeons. I do understand, Val, but we're heading out, and I know how bad the pain gets for you when you're not distracting yourself. Take the Neurontin at least. It's not an opioid, and it will help calm the nerves. If Dr. Hossman is right, it will also prevent the pain from becoming hardwired into your brain. Val gazed reluctantly at the hated pill bottle. Alright, Dad. Since we're heading out, I'll take the damn pills, so I can go a few hours without sobbing in public. His father nodded in approval, and Val knew he would bring the quick relief pain medicine, just in case Val needed it. Val grimaced, taking his prescribed drugs, hating how they made him feel so foggy and helpless, but unable to deny the exquisite relief they brought. And still, for all that, he forced himself to toddle on shaky legs, so badly scarred that the skin looked like pockmarked parchment, as much ugly ragged scar tissue as skin and muscle. Not even the drugs were able to numb that agony as he made himself hobble to the dining room, conceding to the walker but refusing to use a wheelchair in the house. His father a calm step behind, allowing Val to do it himself, there to catch him if he stumbled and fell. When he made it down the tastefully decorated hall into the grand kitchen, high arched ceilings as graceful as Val remembered his mother to have been, he breathed a sigh of relief, taking a few bites of the buttery crepes waiting for him along with a cold glass of milk to wash it down. His father's gaze was solemn. It's good to see you back home. So much said with those words. Val smiled. I know how busy your business keeps you. I'm sorry to be cutting into your time so much. A frown and shake of the head. Not at all. You're my son. Smith has things well in hand, and the least I can do is make myself available to you on the weekends. Frankly, Val, I'm just grateful you accepted my invitation to move back. This house is far too big for me to live in alone. Val lowered his head, nodding slightly as memories of their entire family washed over him. Happy, healthy together, a sweet fantasy to eat to, closing his eyes and imagining his sister's laughter, his brother's gentle teasing, and their mother's warm smile. Then he ate his crepes and thought of nothing at all. So I'm about to get into chapter 2, but I do want to point out a few things that I really like about this series. So I have to admit, one thing that I dislike about just books, any book in general, is when there's like a super rich person that gets everything handed to them. So in this series, obviously the main character has suffered some type of injury where he has mobility issues, so I kind of like that. Another thing that I tend to dislike about series is when the super rich kid hates his parents. So in this series, the super rich kid is getting along with his parents. So far I'm liking this. And a third point is the obvious female interest. So there is an obvious female interest here, but he is not pining for her desperately, which I'm also liking so far. So yeah, so far I think the series, or at least the first chapter, is doing everything right. So I'm going to go ahead and continue on to chapter 2. Good hit, Alex. Now follow through. Val grinned, enjoying himself more than he had thought he would after making the drive to the local HEMA club on the invite of Alex, close friend from his high school days. Their mutual interests had progressed from MMORPG games to LARPing to sparring, with well-balanced replicas of actual swords. Val not the only one to find mastering those old arts absolutely fascinating. Together, they and a few other friends had studied the basics not only of longsword, rapier, sword and buckler, and English saber, but of ancient wrestling and dagger fighting as well. Skills that helped him excel at varsity wrestling, the only school sport he had bothered with in the 4 years he had attended. Skills he would one day put to deadly use. He flinched and shook his head, compartmentalizing ugly memories that had no place in the glorious gymnasium he presently found himself in. Finely polished hardwood floors still smelling of beeswax, half the area covered in mats for free-form sparring or grappling, focusing intently as his friend and his sparring partner circled one another, teasing each other with probing thrusts and strikes. Alex's opponent seized the initiative, lashing out of a fast, powerful, Obara. Val was sure would connect. Even as Alex coolly step slid to the side, even as his blade whipped around in a powerful diagonal blow, aiming not for his foe's neck, but for the blade itself. Alex forcing it offline before following up with a jarring thrust. His surprised opponent was unable to counter, the crack audible even from where Val was sitting. Alex's opponent collapsed to the ground with a wheeze after the perfectly timed blow. Of course, Alex was crouched right there beside his coughing opponent, checking up on him and giving pointers before helping his student up and sending him off with a clap on his back before making his own way to a smiling Val. So what do you think, Val? Do I still got the knack, or what? Alex took off his sparring helmet, brown curls and a brilliant smile showcasing perhaps the handsomest face among his friends, stopping only to give Val's father a firm handshake before reaching over to clap Val's shoulder, saying not a word about the wheelchair his friend had arrived in, and good enough not to flinch at Val's scarred face, treating him the same as he always had. Val laughed. I see you can finally spar properly. Alex grinned. That's right. It's a wicked power blow if you seize the vor and want to tear right through them, but if you act in the Nash and strike their blade with your forte just as they are lashing out for you, your blade is offline, and it's a quick twist and lunge, and you've run them through. Val nodded. A 2-beat version of the Zornha. I almost forgot how good you are with a blade, Alex. I'm glad I got to see you give your newest opponent a run for his money. Yep, I'm teaching part-time. Helps pay the bills, you know. And you're doing what you love. Exactly. Val shared a pained smile, thinking back to a time when he could move freely and easy about the gym just as Alex did, his sparring blade held in an easy, sure grip. The exhilaration he felt, measuring his opponent's movements, flicking quick, teasing blows before springing back, happily waiting for his challengers to overcommit before sending them reeling with perfectly timed blows that seemed to slip through their guard with the dancer's grace and the serpent's speed. That's how I like to remember it, anyway. Val gazed down at legs, even now throbbing with pain, having taken only enough medicine to take off the edge. Valor, how are you feeling? Val smiled into his friend's concerned gaze. Not too shabby, Alex. Were I not a man of leisure now, I'd be more than happy to put you in your place with blade and buckler and long sword. Alex chuckled good-naturedly, exchanging a glance with Val's father. Sort of hoping you'd say that. Hold on just a moment. He then hurried off, Val shrugging and turning to gaze at the score or so of students and masters, half of them free sparring, the other half going over forms with a solemn-voiced instructor. Only a few gazed at Val for more than a few considering moments before nodding their heads as if paying tribute, honoring a wounded vet come home. Val grimaced. He was younger than most. He could tell that just by catching their gazes, helms and fencing masks aside. But their eyes, how goddamn young and naive they all looked, for all that most moved as men in their late 20s and 30s. For all they knew, Val had wiped out in a stupid ski stunt. It had only been a few years since he was training his heart out at this very club, 3 short years that stretched forever, a gulf he could never hope to bridge. But then again, who was he to complain? No one could relive their childhood once they left, and his had been sweeter than most, despite his losses. Only at the end did everything change, and he, at least, was still alive. Not all his friends could say the same, for all that he had fought damn hard to keep them all together. He sighed then, his thoughts turning to Julia, smiling in memory of how passionate she was about life, venturing, and her future. He knew she had dimples, a beautiful smile, and eyes that flashed and sparkled like emeralds, and he only knew that because she had sent pictures to all her friends, enjoying cosplay almost as much as he did adventuring. If he was back in high school, he'd ask her out in a heartbeat, but he wasn't, so he shook those thoughts away, happy just to have her as a friend. Hey Val, if you're done staring at that cute redhead, who is my student, by the way, I have something to show you. Val grimaced, realizing he had been zoning out, grateful to see no one staring back, all too able to imagine what they'd say if some grisly-looking crippled seemed to be leering at them. Lighten up, I'm joking, Alex assured. Now check this out. Val blinked, now focusing fully upon the spadroon. Alex held out with solemn reverence. Val whistled, impressed despite himself. Most small swords that incorporated a cutting blade failed miserably at both. This blade, however, had been built to exacting standards with a back rib down most of its length. It would give the blade rigidity, and when Alex solemnly put it in Val's grip, it felt perfectly balanced, not heavy at all, yet still had a fine edge, even if narrower than most cutting blades. Val was impressed by the exotic hilt, a hybrid between a 3-bar hilt and a clamshell, protecting against cuts and thrusts while still allowing for remarkable balance and point control. Val gazed up at his friend. This must have been privately commissioned. His friend nodded. That much I learned upon coming across the piece, though the same of the officer it was commissioned for is all but illegible. Though the name of the officer it was commissioned for is all but illegible. What's remarkable is that this blade has actually been used in 3 duels, the officer in question emerging victorious after each. Val's eyebrows raised, appraising the blade carefully, light flashing across the polished steel. It looks well cared for, and sharp. There's no way this blade was used as a cutter. You'd be surprised, actually. It's no 1796 light cavalry saber, of course, which could easily lop your head off and hack through light armor. This blade won't slice through an enemy soldier in a thick buff coat charging at you with a bayoneted rifle. Not a chance. But the back ridge and tapered point means that the blade won't flex like most spadroons, and you can run your charging component right through his heart. And the cutting edge? Modest as it is perfect for flicking cuts without even being off balance, giving you perfect control in the duel, especially if you're among gentlemen wearing silken finery, dueling to first blood. Val nodded, considering. Against an unarmed man, a quick darting slash to wrist or neck could win you the duel, even if you didn't bite much past the skin. Exactly. It's all too easy to nick an artery or cripple the wrist, and a quick slash doesn't leave you open to counters the way committing yourself to the lunge does. Val laughed. Good point. Thanks for showing me the blade, Alex smiled. Would you like to try it out? Val gazed at his friend before looking down at his wheelchair. That'd be kind of hard, wouldn't it? Alex shrugged. Not necessarily. So much is done from the wrist. Think of it like fencing or horseback. Horseback! The 1796 is a dedicated cutter because lunges are such a poor idea fighting from horseback, save in the actual charge, and that breaks wrists as often as not if you're not properly trained. For all that, the 1916 was a dedicated thruster. Yes, but by that point, it was all strictly hit-and-run tactics. You didn't engage sword against sword. You just used it like a lance, basically. Now hold that thought. I've got a target for you. Val nodded to show that he was game, reservations aside, purposely turning to gaze at his father. His dad shrugged. Know how much you used to love to fence. Alex said he had an idea to help you get back into your favorite hobby, even from the wheelchair. Val smiled, knowing his father's heart was in the right place. He had never missed the simple joy of effortless mobility more than he did at that moment, unable even to fake a smile as Alex came back, holding a rolled tatami mat with a paper target taped onto it. Good for thrusting or cutting. Give it a go, Val, why not? Val shook his head, feeling the entire class's eyes upon him, before gamely pushing it out of his mind with slow, tentative moments that rapidly gained in assurance. He began to slash the mats, every once in a while following up with a deep lunge as he could, allowing a bow, knowing his wheelchair was now firmly braced. He blinked to hear applause, forcing a smile for all that he feared it was pity, finding himself feeling surprisingly energized for the modest workout, realizing he had actually enjoyed himself. And for all that it was no saber, his slices had not been completely ineffective, and his lunges had gone through without hindrance. He turned to his friend. Thanks, Alex. I enjoyed that. Alex clapped his shoulder. Come by any time. We'll get you sparring with blunt small swords before you know it. It'll be fun. Val promised to consider it, feeling contentment that lasted all the way home. It was nice to get out of the house, wasn't it? His father said after assisting him back to his own room. Val's legs cramping furiously, added agony to the constant fire caressing his limbs. Val thought the pain a worthy trade for a chance to see his friend and handle that beautiful blade. It was, Val admitted. Thanks for taking me. His father smiled. Least I can do for a soldier who served his country, son. Val grimaced. He had been the farthest thing from a hero as he could be. An ugly little secret, that dark necessity that got things done that no one ever talks about. No one even thinks about. Unasked for leave and miscellaneous combat pay. Sometimes they didn't even bother to hide it. Just a stack of bills and orders to have a good time for a week. Blood money to wash their sins away. He drew a shuddering breath, hissing with pain. Damn it, Dad, you're a colonel yourself. You know what really makes these wars tick. What it's really about. His father stared with the hard eyes of a commander, pinning Val with his gaze. Gone was the loving, almost doting father. What Val faced in that moment were the granite-hard features of a man. Val was now utterly certain he had once ordered soldiers just like him, doing God knows what ugly deeds for a cause one could only hope was somewhat just. Val swallowed and looked away. Get some rest, son. You've had a long day. And not another word from his old man. Bedroom door shut quietly behind him. Val trembled and closed his eyes to bitter tears. having felt so weak, so bitter, and he did at that moment, and he wasn't even sure why. Chapter 3. Okay, Finn, I've got him in my sights. He has the flag. On my mark. 3, 2, 1, now! The screen flashed with Val's power attack, his guardian shield slamming the rogue who had stolen his army's flag while their own troops had launched a full offensive, the pair of them holding back just in case things got interesting from the rear, which they suddenly had. Nice casting, Rupture. Okay, he's pinned. Finish him. Val grinned darkly, mashing his keyboard in a sequence of power blows that left his opponent in the red. Finn casting an area effect slow heal, which did little for the high DPS of PvP, which served to disrupt cloaking spells, casting the rogue right before he could flee, having used his own primal to teleport back in the shadows, even while stunned and bound. Alright, so we got to another one. Time for fish cherries. Oh, they're so bad. I don't know why these taste like fish. This is a really good book, though. Yes! Finn roared as the final shield bash and flurry finished off their foe. That's one bastard out of the match for tonight. Good call waiting behind. We get the glory of covering our team covering. Let me swallow the rest of the sherry. We get the glory of covering our team's butts. Like what happened just now, even while the rest of those idiots are zerging for chicken scraps. Val grinned even as their team leader congratulated Val on a second channel. Finn using a private one with Val as he liked to talk shit, intending to piss off anyone who didn't know him. Val muted his second channel before addressing Finn. It was a shot in the dark, but I refuse to waste my time zerging about when I could be running a dungeon, since John hasn't come online and neither has Julia. Yeah, John's furious, by the way, Finn said, and Val could sense his shit-eating grin. Called you 10 kinds of fool when I chatted him up a while back. Seems that stupid thief sold the artifacts he found for a king's ransom. Literally. He now has enough gold to buy one of the sanctuary baronies. Val whistled and laughed away the bitter spike of jealousy in his gut. Butcher Untouchable cannot be taken over by other players and earns him scores of NPCs stroking Salvin's ego with phrases of, "My lord and master." I have no doubt John's been steaming for days after losing his own artifact in that damn fight, which is why I didn't even bother saying hi. It would have been nice to hear from Julia, though. It had been several days since our last chat, and he knew how excited she was about beta testing the hottest game since Illyrium had first come out just a few short years ago. Endless, that was the game, right? Val nodded, but of course his friend couldn't see that. Yes, she seemed really excited. I wasn't going to bother checking it out until it got the Julia seal of approval. Finn laughed at that. She's totally hot for you, you know. Val smirked. She's 17. There is that. She'll be 18 soon enough, though, right? And you're what, maybe 20? Shut up, Finn. Finn laughed. No problem. Hey, look, another fool thinks he can actually sneak past my healing fountain spell so conveniently placed on the ledge there. I think it's time we disabused him of that notion, Val said before doing just that, suddenly feeling better than he had in days. Satisfied as gaming was with his friend, he and Finn, having PvP'd together for as long as they had dungeoneered, what he was particularly proud of was making it 6 hours without needing a single bloody pill. He lay down with a sigh, only partly from the pain, trying Dr. Hausman's, actually, I think it's pronounced Hausman's, meditation exercises, slow, deep, meditative breaths easing into true sleep within seconds. He felt strangely happy, and a body bursting with energy. Everything had a certain vivid brilliance that was strangely surreal. He grimaced, realizing he must be dreaming, hoping this time he would have control, and only sweet contentment would be his. Not that he could relax completely with finals coming, but still. Finals, he blinked, not knowing where his wandering thoughts had taken him, just happy to be enjoying a lakeside drive in a cherry-red convertible. Julia grinning at him as she coasted along the drive, auburn hair thick and wavy flowing with the breeze. His heart was racing, as it always did when he could steal away from his studies and visit Julia, excited as hell to have placed high enough in enlistment testing that his father's friend assured he was a shoo-in for his alma mater. It was Ivy League, and Val was no straight-A student. He had a knack for problem-solving, however, and the critical thinking test the school administrator had personally given him as a proxy test for success there made it clear Val wouldn't be just another gentleman C student if he actually got in. His grades, though, no one would doubt that connection alone had gotten him in if he couldn't average at least a B on his finals. Val frowned and shook his head. He had finished his finals, hadn't he? He had forgone college for reasons he had adamantly refused to think about, enlisting instead with the help of another of his father's friends, passing the physical demands of his elite military unit with flying covers. He had made a lot of fast friends, warm memories, and that was just during basic and advanced training. Then everything had changed once they saw action together. Val frowned and shook his head, gazing into Julia's worried eyes, knowing she hated it when he would zone off, and if he wasn't careful, he'd forget all about the test tomorrow. And calculus was no joke. Sorry, Julia, I don't know where my head is tonight. Her worried expression turned to a relieved smile, eyes once more on the road, passing slowly by the grassy park where young families were picnicking even now. Near everyone enjoying the beautiful view of the crimson and gold sunset mirrored on the pristine lake, the cry of seagulls in the air. The water was fresh, of course, but he swore he could smell it, cold and clean. Glad you were able to make it. I was wondering what it would be like to go out with you for the longest time, since we began playing actually, and I realized your dad knew my own. Val's eyebrows widened at that. Wow, really? What was his name? Maybe Pops told me some stories. Julia shrugged. It wasn't a big deal, but it did make me curious. When I found your profile online, well, I thought you were cute. Her voice softened, the faintest of blushes caressing her cheeks. Val grinned. If only. You should see my legs. They're a mess. It's nagging me to walk, and my face looks like I got in a tussle with a wolverine. Even as he said this, he frowned, feeling as healthy as he ever had as his mind flitted from school wrestling to fencing with his friends. He didn't have that much time for online gaming, but nothing beat feeling like he could actually be the characters in the game he loved. Illyrium, released just a couple months ago. Julia turned her deep green eyes upon him once more. I think it makes you look strong, and I saw how cute you were in your yearbook. It's not too hard to get used to the scar if you feel something for the person underneath. Then you don't even see the marks. All you feel is the warmth in your heart, if that makes sense. Val laughed. I'm dreaming, aren't I? He sighed. It is a beautiful dream. Julia grinned. Admit it. If this were real, you'd be happy, right? Val nodded. Deliriously so. Now I'd feel guilty as hell. I'm 20 and go to sleep with legs that burn and a soul that howls with the things I've done. You? You're 17. A bright flickering flame of hope and possibility with your whole life ahead of you. He chuckled then. If I were 17 again, filled with life's possibilities, he'd snap you up in a second, win your heart, and marry you the minute we turned 18. Julia laughed out loud at that, and even sleeping, Val knew how outrageous a statement it was. You're sweet, Julia sighed, and I wouldn't promise marriage, not a chance. I know what happens to most couples that go too far too fast. But would I want to see you again? Enjoy another ride by the lake as the sun sets? You bet I would. The car had stopped. Soulful eyes gazed into his own, heart hammering, breath coming out in ragged gasps, feeling a sudden wave of giddy joy and terror. It was as great a rush as the first time he had pulled the trigger in earnest, with none of the horror. Only sweetest jubilation as his lips softly pressed against her own. Val? Yes, Julia? Not saying a word, no words were necessary, as they lost themselves in the tenderest of kisses. Please, don't do what I did. Promise me. Head of euphoria turned to quiet dread. The sun had set, families had long since gone home, and the park was filled with the hoots of owls, the cackle of hyenas, the coiling slither of snakes, endless numbers, flood of them, gazing at Val and Julia with their cold, cold, soulless eyes. What did you do? Julia, what's going on? Her aching gaze lanced Val's heart, tears of crimson flowing down her cheeks. Promise me you won't play. You're sensitive, just like me. Val swallowed, abruptly shaking his head, having no idea what she was talking about. That's a lie. How often? How many times had Julia known just what primal power to use, perfectly synced with his own? The need to tell her every little detail fading to just a solid undertaking, like he shared with his entire group. Only when things were really crazy did he need to say it aloud, but by that time they had already unleashed their attacks. The words were always behind the reality. Why had he never thought of that before? Promise me you won't play. Then Julia began to scream, body twisting and writhing as hideous dark light began spilling from her pores. She shook, eyes rolling back, a grand mal seizure, and no matter how much Val cried out, begging for help, Julia did not get better. Her spasms worsened, head slamming against the car seat, Val doing everything he could, too little too late, and as all the cackling, howling creatures beyond their car twisted their gazes into hideous concert to peer into his own, Val fled that awful nightmare. Waking up with a lurch, his father banged frantically on his bedroom door. Val gasped, his throat raw with forgotten screams. Alright guys, that's the end of the sample. This was Endless Online Oblivion's Blade by M.H. Johnson. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I thought it was a very good book. It kind of did all the good things that I like. Anyway, I hope you guys have a good day, a good night, a good weekend, whatever time it is that you're watching this, and I will see you guys next time.